What you manifest in your mind, you can bring to reality.
So I drive rideshare, the companies do this to make ends meet, and I live out in the Palm Springs area, and every once in a while I will get rides that take me out of the valley, like Ontario Airport, every once in a while different spots in LA. And the other day, I go pick somebody up out in Palm Springs, kind of southern Palm Springs, in the little cove area there, kind of a little bit more money in those areas, and pick up this hipster kid, and he's going out to West Hollywood, which I enjoy getting these rides because they pay well. I'm kind of done for the day. I had already done some driving that day and had hit like a pretty big drought in the day where I was just sitting around in the shade trying to survive the heat and get this ride. And you don't know it's a long ride, how long it is necessarily, until you pick the person up. And I saw it was West Hollywood, so I was like, fine. And it's mostly just hopping on the 10 for most of it, and then a little bit on the 101 before getting off on his exit. So fairly easy drive, not a lot of changing of freeways, which is good. Just obviously having to deal with LA traffic. Thankfully, though, it was like around 4:30 when I picked him up, and it was a 2.5 hours. So wait, 5:30, 5 o'clock, 5, 6, 7. So I picked him up around 5 o'clock, and then we got there around 7:30, 7:45 ish. But it was a pretty easy drive for the most part. Of course, getting into LA started getting more and more traffic. And then once we got off the freeway, even more traffic. Now, I'm not familiar with LA, so I'm pretty much going by Waze, the GPS app Waze, which sometimes can give you wonky directions around things. For instance, it took me off the 101 to take a couple side streets to get back on the 101. And I have a feeling my passenger was pretty skeptical about my route. But I was just like, I'm not, for the most part, I don't, around town, I will ignore certain routes the GPS gives me. But once if I'm out in LA, I am not questioning shit. I'm not going to question shit unless my passenger tells me to go a certain direction. I'm following the GPS regardless. So I'm just trying to be in the moment driving. And it's just like, it's been a while since I've had to drive in that kind of traffic. I mean, there was a little bit of traffic in Denver, kind of not super crazy, but it is a city. San Diego, of course, traffic certain times of the day. And then LA, every time I go to LA, it's a ton of traffic. So it had been a while, and not long after hitting traffic and starting to go on side streets and having to make turns and change lanes, and people are driving like crazy people. And it's like I'm driving a minivan, and there's like Ferraris and like Bentleys and just super expensive cars just driving like idiots. I'm like you're going to fuck up your car. It cost me a fraction of whatever it would cost you to fix your car. But it's like my face started twitching like it has never twitched before. Like usually if I'm a few days into not having good sleep, I'll get like a little bit of an eye twitch. When I used to work at Costco, I used to get facial twitches all the time, and it's just something I've noticed that my face does in reaction to being stressed out. And it'd been a while since I've driven in that kind of traffic, so I was stressed out, and my face was letting me know, which the sensation of having small muscles in your face twitching uncontrollably adds to the stress. It's kind of one of those things where it just feeds off of itself. But it was cool because once I got there, I was excited because I was going to be hitting Sunset, I noticed, and I would be driving. First, I hit Sunset, which is nice. I'm starting to notice all of these, recognize all these street names from just comedians talking about them on podcasts all the time. So when you see them kind of one after the other, you can tell I'm in neighborhoods where they are highly concentrated. And then I drove by the Laugh Factory, which, like, my memory of Sunset and West Hollywood when I stayed there, I met up with some internet people, podcast people, like 2012, I think, is when we got an Airbnb on the other side of the hill, north of the Strip. And we went to a few shows at the Comedy Store, usually at night, though. So this was still daytime. The sun hadn't gone down yet. So it was still light out. Kind of still traffic going on, too. But nothing like... I mean, it was moving, which was nice. I was never really stuck anywhere for a long period of time. It was just a lot of cars, and it was at least moving. But yeah, so we hit the Strip, and it looks way more dense than I remember it. Like my memory of the Sunset Strip is like far more spread out than driving down it. And I never drove when I went to visit the first time. We took an Airbnb, or we took an Uber, and somebody else drove one night. Yuck drove one night, and we went over the hill, which was a crazy drive instead of going all the way around it. But I never drove up and down the Sunset Strip, so driving it, still light out. It was just like stressed out, my face twitching. But then I saw the Laugh Factory. I'm like, oh, that's cool. And it's just like packed. Like, just the streets are packed with people. The comedy club was packed with people waiting to go in. And then like as I'm going down, it's like, oh, the Comedy Store. Like, I'm going to drive by the Comedy Store, and I did, and it was full. Like, I wish I lived where this guy was going, because he just lived just down the street, a few blocks down. Like, he could easily walk to the Comedy Store and probably the Laugh Factory too. Drove by, kept driving past the Comedy Store, saw the Pink Dot, where just above the Pink Dot is where Ari Shaffir used to live in his apartment. And I remember the last time I visited the Comedy Store, the only time, I guess, we walked down to the Pink Dot to get some, I don't remember what, cigarettes or some shit. And it's just like there's the apartment building right behind it. And that's, I think that's the one where Ari used to live, which is just, it's kind of a weird thing stepping into an environment that you've heard a lot about. And now, I mean, that's kind of the allure of Hollywood, I guess. But that area, I would love to live there. I would love to live there. I mean, it's so much of it. There's so much stuff just in that small area of LA. There's so many things going on. I would love to live there just so I could walk around. You could walk around and do everything within a very small distance and be in kind of a really eclectic mix of people. Like, the majority of people that you see walking around would be the most awkward, weird people in most other towns, in most other places you could visit. But it like that part of it, I wish I was there. But driving Uber and Lyft in that area in LA, I would never want to, like, that's not a job. It made me appreciate driving around the desert where everything's kind of spread out and open and traffic doesn't really exist. But yeah, so that was my trip to West Hollywood. It was a fun, like, reminiscing and kind of getting a refresher of what the reality of the place looks like versus my memory that's crazily decorated it. But I hope to go back to the Comedy Store and watch some comedy soon. Yeah. But anyway, that's it for this episode. New episodes of this show come out every day. Subscribe on IGTV, YouTube, and everywhere else podcasts are found. Go buy my original artwork over at InspiredDisorder.com and save 10% when you use coupon code INSPIRED. At Ray Taylor for me on all social media. Have a wonderful day, everybody. Peace out!